Hi, my name's Kevin, and in this video I'm going to show you how to install and use Tailwire. Tailwire is a new package I just released for Laravel. And what it does is it allows you to build web apps without having to write HTML, CSS, or JavaScript. And it's powered by Laravel Livewire and Tailwind CSS. So I'm going to install it first. So I'm going to open terminal, cd into my Valet folder, and I'm going to go Laravel, new, we'll call this Tailwire Demo. Okay, now that that's done, I'm going to open the project. Open. I'm going to go into my .env file. I'm just going to edit the app, database, and mail settings. So I'm going to change the name. We'll say Tailwire Demo for the name. The URL is fine. For the database, I'm going to jump into Tables Plus and make sure I have a database created. Okay, it's created. And for the mail, I use mailhog on localhost, so I'm going to change that, and I'll just put a from address. Tailwire demo.txt. Alright, now I'm going to go composer require redbasti / tailwire. Now that that is required, I'm going to install Tailwire using the Tailwire install command. So I'm going to go php artisan tailwire install. Now what this is going to do is it's going to create my basic index and layout components. It's going to update the user model to use the automatic migrations and stuff. It's got a bunch of config files it overwrites for things like the time zones and app versioning and all that. Creates the user factory. It creates the Apple Touch and favorite icons, the PWA manifest file, the CSS and JS resources, updates the route file and just comments out the Laravel default index route, and then your Tailwind config and your webpack. And it also deletes the old user migration file. And if you notice there as well, it ran all the npm commands for me in the background, so I don't gotta run any additional commands. So now if I click here, it says installation complete, and I click here, should take me to my Tailwire application. And it's super bare bones, right? You just got your logo and an index. Welcome to your Tailwire app. Now if I go in here and look at how that's done, you see here with the install command, it created this index and app component file in your app components folder. Now if I look at index, you see here, it's extending the layouts.app, so it's pointing to here with the dot notation. And you can see here this view method in the component is what we're using to build the view. And it's using this v variable, which is from the view class. And what this does is it allows you to create all your HTML using that v variable. So you see here I got a section and then h1 with the class, and here's my Tailwind classes, and then a paragraph, welcome to your Tailwire app. So you see here, now let's say, just to give you a quick example, this uses this V class, which is basically the whole core of how to build your HTML app. And then with the class method here, this is all my Tailwind classes. So check this out. Let's say I want to change this title to be red or something. So I go text, red, and you can also see I have autocomplete here for my Tailwind classes inside this PHP component. So let's go text red 500. If we go back here and refresh, you see the text changes to red. And you can add, infinite HTML components, or elements rather. It's all up to you. You can change all the classes around to whatever you want. This just gives you a really basic starter. So now that that's done, you saw how fast and easy it was to install this, and it already does all the Tailwind stuff for you. Like it created this Tailwind config file, and you can see here when I run npm run production, it's going to purge everything that's not in my component classes. So I did a test with this, and my CSS file was something like 7 kilobytes. Like, it was disgustingly small. It was outstanding. So it's going to purge all the stuff from the components, classes, and it's safe to listed this because this is used by some of the package elements, the hidden class, and it also uses the Tailwind Forms plugin. Let's go through some more commands here. So we did install. Now let's do auth. So let's say I want auth scaffolding, and I don't want to have to code all the login and registration stuff. So I'm going to go PHP artisan tailwire auth. You can see here it's done already. What it did was it created all my auth components: login, logout, forgot password, reset password, register, home. It also created basic user CRUD, and it created a example user you can log in with. So if I click here, I should be able to log in with user@example.com, a password of password. And I'm in. I can go home, I can go back to the index, I can log out, I can register, and you see here it has Recaptcha built in by default. So Tailwire comes with full Recaptcha integration. So let's make a user tester at test.com. Password I'll make test, and I am not a robot. Fun times. Alright, so it registered me, and it logged me in. Now let's log out. Let's do the forgot password stuff. So I just did tester at test.com. Let's say I forgot my password. I just need to make sure Mailhog is running, because that's what I use to catch the dev emails. And then send password reset link. We have emailed you. Okay, so if I go go into my Mailhog here, you can see I got Tailwire Demo sent me a reset password notification. I click reset password. It's asking me for a new password. I'll just put ABC, and it logged me back in. So now if I log out and I log in and I go tester at test.com and I put ABC, it should let me in. Yep. So now you see I have full auth scaffolding, and also one thing here is it should have the user CRUD. So if I go my URL/user, and I already found one minor issue here. Look at the layouts. I should probably add if the route exists here. I'll probably do that after. I'm probably going to do this after this video, so I'm just going to write this down. Add user to nav if route exists. So I'm going to update this, and I'm going to have it so that if this user route exists, it'll automatically throw it in the nav here, but I'm going to do this by hand. So we got login, register, if you're logged out. If they're logged in, let's say I want to show the user's navigation link, which goes to the user route. And I refresh, and now I can click on users to go here. And you can see I got really basic user CRUD here where you can search, you can create new users, edit them, you can view them, and delete them, of course. And you can see here, so see how I just added this this nav link. So it's an 8, it's an A with the href of route user. And then here's my Tailwind classes. Now if I go into the user component /user/ index, you can see with the automatic routing that comes with Tailwire, the route URI is user, right? I gotta add one more thing. So the route URI is user. I'm gonna add slashes to this stub after. It's got the route URI, route name, route middleware, so you have to be logged in to view it. It's got the view title, and it's extending again the layouts app. And you can see here, here's all the HTML elements built out using that v variable. And now you can see, so it's got the search, it's got the create button, it's got each loop to display all the users along with these little buttons here. You can see right here. And it's also got infinite scrolling. So if I had a bunch of users, it would infinite scroll through them the same way the Facebook newsfeed works. I'll show you that. Let me seed some more users here. Go user, factory, let's make 100, create. Now if I go PHP artisan, Tailwire, migrate, seed. I'm gonna go through the migration command shortly here. I just want to show you a couple things. So I go Tailwire migrate seed. Now if I look into my, where is it? DO Tailwire Demo. If I look at my users table, it's got a whole ton of seeded data. And now if I refresh the page, you should see it all here. Now with the infinite scrolling I just showed you, I'm trying not to go too fast. See here, it's got this infinite scroll element. So now as I scroll down, it's going to automatically load more. You see that little spinner there? And that's coming from here. V icon, which is the method to create a hero icon. So it's using the refresh hero icon with the animate, spin, text gray, and all that good stuff. Just to show you again, right there. So you can see here, everything's done within the components. You don't have to mess around with blade files. You don't have to mess around with JavaScript files. You don't have to mess around with CSS files. Everything can be done inside of the component. And well, I'll get into this infinite scrolling and query stuff shortly here. It's not too complex once I show it to you. Okay, so what's next here? We went through the auth. You can generate components with the component command. So let's make a simple component. Let's go PHP artisan Tailwire component. I'll just say hello. And you'll see here it'll pop up with this component here, really basic component. It's not a full page component. So you would include this component into another component. And let's make a full page one. Let's go Tailwire component page with the flag of full or option. Now if I go here and I see page, now you have a full page component with the route URI, route name, view title, and here's your HTML stuff here. And if I go and visit this now, I go page, because that's the route URI here from the component. You can see here it takes me to my new page that we just generated. Okay, now for Crud, it also comes with the Crud command. So the same way you see with the users here, you can make your own simple Crud as like a boilerplate. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. I'll do it for like a vehicle. I'll go PHP artisan, Tailwire, Crud, vehicle. And it's gonna create the components, and it's going to create the model and factory. So if I look here, it's gonna have a new vehicle folder. And if I go into my models, it has this new vehicle model. And if we go into my factories, it's got the vehicle factory, which points to the vehicle model definition. And you'll see in this vehicle model that it generated, I'm going to go over this shortly with the automatic migration stuff. It's telling me to Tailwire migrate so that it doesn't throw an error when I try and visit the page, because these new Crud components, it has an index and it's going to try and grab the vehicles and order them by name. So I'm going to go PHP artisan Tailwire migrate. And now we should see this new vehicle table here. Now if I go to my URL/vehicle, you see it's got my vehicle CRUD here, so let's create a vehicle. Let's call it a Silverado and Civic and Diablo. And you can edit them too, so Honda Civic. And you can delete them, you can search them on. So now we have basic Crud scaffolding for our vehicle model done, just like that. And with anything you generate, of course, you can modify the view method with all of the HTML and the Tailwind classes you actually want to use. So let's generate a new model now. Now we can just generate a model, a Tailwire model on its own. I'm going to go PHP artisan Tailwire model, and we'll call this what? Truck. It's going to create the model and the factory. So we got truck. Gosh. I'm just making notes as I go along for things I want to tweak. So the Tailwire model was created with the factory. Now if I go into this truck model here, you can see it has my migration method for the automatic migration command, and it has the factory definition. And of course, you can use regular models with Tailwire if you prefer using like the traditional database migration files. But this is just what I prefer to use. Same with the definition, like this is just pointing from here, from the factory. It's just pointing to this definition class here. Now we'll do this automatic migration command. So you see here, I mentioned the automatic migrations. Now, all of these Tailwire models have this migration command. You see here? Let's do user, for example. So this is all of the database structure that you want the user model to have. And I'm going to actually make changes to one. So let's make sure my migrations are up to date. PHP artisan Tailwire migrate. Now when I run this command, PHP artisan Tailwire migrate, what it's going to do, it's going to go through all of my model files, check for this migration method. It's going to compare the schema from this function to the existing schema of my database. And if it's different, it's going to update it. So you see here I got vehicles, right? It has ID, name, and the timestamps. Now what if I wanted to add a new field? Well, normally with Laravel, you'd have to create a new migration and then add the stuff there and then run the migrations. But with Tailwire, what I can do is I can go table, integer, let's make one for year, the vehicle year, and I'll make it nullable. Now, once I've added this, all I have to do is run the Tailwire migrate command again. And if I jump into my database and refresh the table, you see it has this new year column here. Now if I go to the structure, you'll see it's an integer and it's nullable. Now let's say I wanted to just remove that. Just remove it from your migration method, run the command again, and you see it's gone, just like that. So I showed you a bit earlier about the full page components. So let's look at, again, we're in this vehicle full page component. And this comes from the vehicle index that we generated with the Crud command. And in order to have automatic routing, you see it's specifying these route properties in the component itself, so you don't even have to mess with the routes file. You just put in what routing properties you want the component to use. So you see, for example, it's got the URI, the name, the middleware. So I can't access this route unless I'm logged in. So let's try that. Let's log out and let's go try and visit vehicle. And it's redirecting us to the login page. Now, along with the route properties, you can specify view properties like the view title and what it should extend if it's a full page component. So you see here, I mentioned this before, again, I'm just going over it again. You have this layouts app, right? And this is my app layout. And in this layout file, in the view method, it's calling vYield. And what that's going to do is, since this component is extending this component, the vYield is going to yield the actual contents here, right here, where I want it to yield. It's similar to the way blade views work. Okay. And then I showed you how to build the HTML elements here. So you see here, like in this vehicle index, or even let's go into the modal, the dialog. So when you click on read for the vehicle, let's log back in, user@example.com, password. I can't type. Okay, so now I go back to vehicles, and you see, like when I click on read, it's showing me the ID, name, created at, updated at. All of this comes from the view methods here. So you see this view method? It's section, and it's fixed, inset with the full width, and that's for the background, the black you saw there, the little black semi-opaque background, and then here's the actual dialog itself, and then it's got the title, it's got a button to close it, and I'm going to get into these wire actions shortly. But you see, so like for example, we got a button, and the contents of the button is an icon. It's a hero icon, the X hero icon. And when you click it, it's calling the hide method within the component. So if I look at the hide method, you can see here, it's changing the show variable to false, so that I don't show it anymore. Because if you look here in the view, it's saying if this show, I want it to spit out all this HTML. Otherwise, it's not spitting out anything because there's no else or anything. So hide is going to change this variable, and then it's going to call a special method to unlock the body scroll bar, because you have to use JavaScript to lock the body scroll bar. Otherwise, it jumps around and it makes your OCD go nuts. So I showed you this hide, right? So there's also a show. And this show is actually called from the index. So when I click on this eye icon, what it's doing, see the eye icon here? So we got another button with the eye icon. And when you wire click it, it's emitting to the vehicle.read using the dot notation, the same way the view extends is specified. So it's emitting to vehicle.read show with the vehicle ID. And then if I go in here and look at show, it's got a listener for show, and it's using route model binding, and it's automatically importing the vehicle model, and it's throwing it into this vehicle variable. And then it's changing this show variable to true, and it's doing the body scroll lock thing that I mentioned earlier. Okay, that's probably a lot. How long have we got here? 24 minutes in already. Okay, let's try and make this a bit quicker so it's not too long. Okay, so I showed you how to build the HTML elements. I showed you how to style the elements with Tailwind. Again, like here, let's change the vehicle index h1 color with Tailwind. Let's make it green. So let's go text green. Let's do text green 600. I just love that autocomplete thing so much. So now it's green, yay. If you want this autocomplete, I should mention, it's in the README. For this Tailwind autocomplete, I'm using this plugin here. If I go to my plugins, installed, it's called Tailwind Css Autocomplete by Luan TH. It's really amazing. Like, look, I got everything. BG red. It shows you everything. Like, it's got full auto completion within PHP. It's outstanding. Okay, so I showed you how to style the elements with Tailwind. I showed you a bit about wiring. I showed you the wire click. So these method names are all mapped to the way you would specify them with Livewire and standard blade components. So you see you got wire click. I want to show you, let's look at this save component here. And this is what's opening when I click create or edit the vehicle. See how it's got this name input here? So if I go back to my save component, you see I got this input for name, and it's wire model deferring the name. Because Tailwire, each component has a model property array. You just don't see it here because it's in the extended component class. But it's got a model array property. And when you wire model stuff, it will automatically fill it in for you. So you see it's wire model deferring the name, right? And then down here I've got it validating the name. So if I click save, it's going to spit out an error. The name field is required because we're checking for errors here. So if this error name, function arrow, show a paragraph with the error with text XS and text red 600. So there's a couple of little functions that are mentioned in the README, like if this error, and you can also use this model with dot notation to grab the model property values. So like if I wanted to grab the name, I could do this model name. If it was an array, like a username or something, I'd go user name equals this model user dot name. It's, again, dot notation everywhere, so everything's consistent. Okay. I showed you the if directive here in the checking for errors. So you see if this error, it's gonna spit out the error in a paragraph. I showed you the actions for the clicking earlier in the Crud stuff. There is other directives. So you saw the if, and then if you go into the index, you see there's this each directive. Change to, okay, I'm not going to do that now. It's giving me this little squiggly error because I haven't changed the language level to PHP 8 in this project. Language level. Let's change it to PHP 8 so it stops complaining. Here we go. Okay, so the each loop here, you see it's got an each loop calling this query paginate because it's using the infinite scrolling, which is specified in the README. So it's got an each, and then the first parameter is the contents, the items, and then the second parameter is your function with your closure containing the item itself. So for each, this query paginate, you can see this query is calling vehicle query and returning it ordered by name, and it's checking to see if the user entered a search term. Then if it does, if they did, it's adding a where with a like. And here, so you got this query paginate, and then for each of them, it's going to spit out a div with the name, the time zone, and the buttons and all that good stuff. I know it's really hard to explain this, but if you check it out and you do like Crud generation and just look at this, I think it'll be pretty easy to grasp once you actually read the code yourself. So we did that. You can include partial components with the include directive. I showed you the hero icons. The pull down refresh. So in the app layout, you'll see this pull down refresh, and what it does is Tailwire comes with basic PWA capabilities. So when somebody visits your app in Safari or whatever, they can add it to their home screen on their phone. It's going to launch when they click on the icon on their home screen. It's going to launch as a standalone browser, which means that it's not going to show all the browser controls and stuff. So it'll have like back and forward swipe functionality, but with Safari and iOS, it doesn't have a pull down to refresh functionality. So this pull down refresh, when they pull down from the top, it's going to show a spinner, and then after like 250 milliseconds or something, it's going to reload the page. So it's just adding that functionality to your PWA. And then the Recaptcha, I showed you the Recaptcha in the auth register component. So you see here, we got a div with the Recaptcha element. If this error Recaptcha, show the Recaptcha error. And what this does is when the person completes the Recaptcha, it's automatically going to pass the Recaptcha response to the component model array that we were talking about earlier with the value they entered, so that we can call this validate method on Recaptcha with the new Recaptcha rule, which uses the Recaptcha SDK to verify that the response was correct. So I showed you that. I showed you pull down refresh. I showed you the infinite scrolling and the index. So you see here, we're using this query as a reusable method here because we have this used in the each loop here. And what it does is it paginates using this per page, because again, Tailwire components have this per page property, which starts off at 15. And then when the infinite scroll fires, when they scroll down like 100 pixels from the bottom, infinite scroll is going to fire. It's going to increment this per page. And it's going to show the other items that were just loaded in. So you see I'm reusing this query method here. I'm calling paginate on it with this per page. And then down here for the infinite scrolling, I'm going this query count. If this query count is greater than this per page, I'm going to show the infinite scrolling indicator, which tells Tailwire to infinitely scroll content because there's more content to load when they scroll down. And then yeah, I mentioned the include directive. So you see here we're including the vehicle.read right here and the vehicle.save, which shows the dialog when they click on the icons. Okay, I think that's pretty much it for now. This video is already long enough, and I'm probably talking gibberish at this point. So the repository URL is github.com/redbasti/tailwire if you want to check this out. And I'm going to make a few tweaks after this video, but it's similar to, for people who checked out my Swift project, it's similar to that, but this uses Tailwind. And it's much more intuitive in the way that you create your HTML elements. It's going to be very familiar for you, having experience writing HTML and stuff, because the view v variable uses the actual HTML element names as the first method in the chain. So if you checked out Swift, this is like 100 times better. Even if you do like prefer Bootstrap, I used to prefer Bootstrap too, but I started messing with Tailwind because I noticed that I was always messing with Sass and SCSS and CSS anyways just to get bootstrapped to a decent level. So I almost just ditched everything and went back to vanilla CSS, and then I remembered about Tailwind, gave it another try, a second try, because I hated it at first, and now I actually love it. And especially with this, the way that you build out your application using Tailwire, all the components are self-contained, so you can use, it's very easy to modify the classes and stuff. And you can still even use the apply directive if you really want to by going into your resources folder here, because the Tailwire install command created this stuff for you. So if I wanted to go into my resources app.css, I could start using the apply directive and start, making my own custom Tailwind classes and using them in the Tailwire PHP components. So anyways, I think that's it for now. This video is already long enough. So I hope you find this useful, or at least interesting. If you have any questions or issues, feel free to leave a comment or check out the GitHub repository, and I'll help you out there. Thanks.